Welcome to episode 5 of Teachers Lift. Our podcast is the product of a cooperative effort between teachers at 3 universities in Hong Kong to create a friendly space to chat about teaching. We're calling this week Interinstitutional Week, and we're exploring a new format to see if we can encourage even more sharing across our various institutions. If you like the content we're producing here, we hope you'll subscribe to the podcast and like our Facebook page. You can find us at teacherslift.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/teacherslift. In this episode, our hosts are talking to Carly Ng and Anna Ho, 2 leaders in the field of service and experiential learning. They talk about the value of these types of programs and the unique challenges they've been facing due to the problems in Hong Kong in recent months.
Welcome to another episode of the Teachers Lift. We've had many different guests in the lift so far, and today should be another great episode as we dive a bit deeper into the world of experiential learning. So Aditi, who's joining us in the lift today?
We have 2 experts with us, Anna Ho and Carly Ng. Let's remind you that this is an interinstitutional episode on the podcast, our first interinstitutional collaborative episode on the podcast. So Anna Ho is a senior lecturer at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University and is in charge of the service learning programs there. And she's been doing this formally since 2012. So she spent a lot of years doing this. And Carly Ng is a lecturer at the University of Hong Kong and is heading the Nurturing Global Leaders program at the university. It used to be a 8-week-long program, but nowadays it's 6 weeks long. It's an elective program and there's 12 credits. So let's hear more from both Anna and Carly.
Okay, so let's maybe start with you, Anna. Can you tell us a little bit about your program, or perhaps what's most interesting for our listeners to start talking a bit about experiential learning? Why experiential learning? Why this service learning program at PolyU?
Okay, maybe I can give you some background information about service learning in PolyU. Now, in year 2012, that was a very special year to Hong Kong tertiary institutes because that was the time when the 4-year curriculum was officially introduced. And PolyU at that time took advantage of this opportunity and then introduced service learning formally into our curriculum. And PolyU's students since then need to do at least 1 credit-bearing service learning subject in their 4-year career in the university. And because of this requirement, we set up an official unit. The name at that time was Service Learning Office. Recently, they have retitled itself to be Service Learning and Leadership Office. In short, it's slow, okay? Yeah, interesting. It's a very
interesting name.
Yes. And this unit helps us to coordinate all sorts of administrative and logistics issues. And then also, this unit encourages departments to submit subject proposals. And now, we have about 70 plus service learning subjects for students to choose from. And students can choose any subjects that interest them. And now, I have 2 service learning subjects offered under ELC. One is, in short, is ELC 2002. The subject title is Serving the Community Through Teaching English. Okay, as the name suggests, my students are supposed to go into the community to teach English. Okay, and we have been running this subject for 7-8 years already. With the experience gained, we have now been doing this subject in various locations in the world. For example, in Hong Kong, we go to community centers in Sham Shui Po or Wan Chai and so on. Apart from Hong Kong, we are also delivering similar kind of service in China mainland, Taiwan, and Cambodia.
So am I right in thinking, Anna, then that this is a experiential learning that PolyU students have to take, and they can choose between different subjects, and some of these students are choosing something within your center that goes out to the teaching. Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
How does that compare with what you're doing, Carly, at Hong Kong U?
Well, I think at Hong Kong U, at the Nurturing Global Leaders program, we are doing something very similar, although the title is quite different. Our title is Nurturing Global Leaders, but we also serve the community through teaching English. So NGL has been running for 13 years already. It started as MOE in 2008, and in the current version of the program, we sent students to Myanmar to teach marginalized youth English. So in that way, we are also serving the local community. So over the past few years, we've been going to different places around the world as well. So there are some overlaps with Anna's program. We went to Cambodia. We also went to mainland China. We also went to Thailand as well.
So like nice locations. Yeah, go on, Aditi.
As you said, this involves a lot of travel and students traveling from Hong Kong to either Myanmar or to mainland China. So with the recent travel bans because of COVID-19, what do you think the situation has been for NGL? What are the students doing and how are you coping with it?
Well, to be honest with you, I have no definite answer at this moment because we've been doing risk assessments every now and then over the past few weeks. We've been monitoring the current situation and development of the coronavirus very closely, and we will make a decision soon. But there are many things to consider, like the recent travel bans you mentioned, and also the local situations or the medical support. For example, whether there are isolation wards in the local hospitals, etc. So these are things that I've never imagined myself doing. And I think this is the full NGL experience.
Yes, you're right. I mean, isn't it fascinating that experiential learning is not just about something that we prepare, but also something that can happen very spontaneously. So as you said, how are students learning at this juncture when everything is a kind of state of emergency? So what kind of experience are they gaining now? And are they aware that they are gaining a new and a different experience?
Oh, let me reassure you, Aditi. I think the answer is a definite yes. I've been getting emails from students over the past few weeks who are confirmed participants of our NGL program 2020, who are very anxious to get onto the program and are wondering if we can start as scheduled. So I'm as anxious as them, and I'm really, I really want to give them an answer, but at the same time, I'm telling them that this is the pre-training that they get for NGL. It's the full NGL experience that they will be getting, preparing for things that they can never plan for. So adapting to changes and just making decisions day by day as we monitor the situation.
There's so much to learn from this episode. There's so much that students can learn and we can learn as teachers. What is your advice to other teachers who are facing similar situations where their students need to do things which they're unable to do?
I think the major thing is to be there with them. As a teacher on an experiential learning program, I feel really lucky because I'm able to ride the tide with the students. So I'm with them throughout the whole journey. So this reminded me of what happened last year in June. So when everything started, when the social movement started last June, I was actually with the students and we just flew to Yangon to start our program. And the first million people march happened on a Sunday. We were planning to start the teaching internship on the following Monday. And that was a sleepless Sunday for all of us. So on the morning of the first day of teaching, everyone was very sleepy, very tired because none of us was able to get any sleep, worried about our city, worried about our friends. So it was really very memorable for, I think, all of us.
Anna? Anna, do you think your students are as positive about this experience and they're as excited and they feel that this is kind of pre-preparation, experiential learning experience that would be valuable for them?
My students, I'll focus on my, I have basically now two big groups of students, okay? The SEM 1+2 students are serving in Hong Kong, are supposed to be serving in Hong Kong. whereas the SEM 2 plus 3 students are going to serve overseas. The SEM 2 plus 3 students are now receiving training on how to teach. And they're obviously very, very excited about like meeting their service client, their service clients. However, at the back of the mind, I'm sure a lot of them are also concerned about the unknowns. For example, some of my students are Koreans, okay, and they will be wondering whether Taiwan possibly want them to go into the country at all. And like some of the students in my team Cambodia, they are also very concerned about whether same sort of rules may be introduced suddenly overnight by the Cambodian government, whether they can get into countries. But I keep telling them that this is the beauty and maybe the challenge of doing service learning or experiential learning as a whole, because everything we do is real. The authenticity of it makes it fun, but at the same time challenging. And this is something I think our students
need to learn. It's a really interesting perspective, I think, that this is experiential in itself. What's going on at the moment, these sort of practical issues, I think. I think it's a really good point. I mean, what about Anna, in terms of, is there anything you've had to change in terms of your pedagogical approach because of what's going on at the moment? So there's obviously a lot of practical issues about, can students get visas? Are they allowed into the country? And what about for yourself and for the teachers who are doing the training and helping these students? Have there been big pedagogical shifts during this time?
You know, if you asked me this question a year ago, I would have had a lot of reservation, because, sorry, I don't quite believe in this online teaching thing, okay? I didn't, okay. But now, because of this need, I have to turn things online. And surprisingly, it worked pretty well. I guess one of the reasons is because both the teachers and my students, we are keen on this project. And then we handpick every single student. We interview them. So they want to do this program, and we want to do it well. So I think that our motivation is really high. And another thing is because in the past years, we have been slowly introducing a flipped classroom approach. And we have turned a lot of activities, a lot of pedagogical videos online. So it becomes not that difficult for my team members, my teachers, to flip the classroom. We ask students to watch the videos, okay, maybe some good and bad lessons, and then they come back to discuss. And then also because they're so motivated, most of the students come prepared. So pedagogically, it wasn't that much.
So what have you been using there? I mean, did you use something like Zoom or Skype to have discussions or forums? Can you give some practical examples of what actually shifted?
The official platform that PolyU encourages us to use is Collaborate Ultra. And some of my teachers are using Collaborate Ultra. But myself and another colleague are using Zoom to hold the online teaching thing. I just did a quick survey among my students and asked them some practical questions. For example, asking them, do you encounter any technical problems or freezes on the screen when teachers showing you video clips online? And some of the students told me that it happened quite frequently. But most of them find it's okay. So there are issues. I'm learning, and I think I think this year is we are learning in a different mode. And
keeping it experiential, Anna. Very experiential.
Well, the greatest challenge to me is all the logistics.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe I'm not as young and as positive as Carly. I think all these dealing with all these unknowns have been mentally.
I mean, I'm trying to get a visa for my family to go to the UK, and that's a nightmare in itself. So to try and do that across all these students must be horrific. What about you, Carly? Are there any curious to know, following on from Anna, whether you feel there's been some sort of shifts in what you've been doing pedagogically? Obviously, there's a lot of practical issues as well with sending students abroad and the visa sort of questions. But what about the actual sort of training and getting them to understand what's going on? Is there much of a shift there?
Well, I think like what Anna said, a lot of things can be shifted online. So for the pre-trip training that we prepare students before they fly off to the locations where they teach English to local communities, I think that part can definitely be shifted online, especially now that we've all become Zoom experts over the past 2 or 3 months. So that part, I'm not very worried. And also, however, my biggest worry would be about the team building and also the soft skills part, because this is what cannot be replicated easily online. I mean, during the pre-trip training, we get students to get more comfortable working with one another in their teams where they are sent off to the same locations. But apparently, if we have to do Zoom training, that might not be very effective or possible, to say the least. So that part I'm a little bit worried. But then if we are able to get and fly out onto the ground, I think these will definitely get better, because they will learn more about one another, get more comfortable with interacting with one another on the ground. So pedagogically, I think there's not much difficulty, because we can all shift online, all sorts of teaching preparation. And also,
It's mostly Zoom and videos and forums, things like that. Anything specific that you're recommending that you've been using?
Well, not really, because the training wouldn't start until early June. So preparing, but I don't foresee too big a problem in moving things online, because students will be taught mainly the teaching strategies or learning needs assessment of their local students in the pre-trip training. All these could be done on Zoom, like what we're doing right now during the semester. But again, as I mentioned, it will be the team building and the more soft skills part that's more challenging to tackle. And of course, the on-site teaching would be affected, because we can't really teach via Zoom because of the connection problems in the local partner organizations. Because our outages are very often in Myanmar, just for the record.
It's great to see you smiling, hear you smiling, and clearly, as Anna said, you have a very positive view towards this. And I feel that, could it be because, is there a difference here? You are dealing with 40 students, am I right? Yeah. And Anna, how many students would you be dealing with? I think the numbers are a lot higher.
For the students going overseas, I'm thinking about around 80 to 100.
So dealing with 40 students versus 100 students, how does that work out? Do you have some students who kind of say, okay, I want to drop out, or can I take another course, which is not experiential? Can I somehow get this done through another means?
And in fact, back in the beginning of this semester, my team and I have been trying out every possibility to discourage our students to take our subjects. We were trying to be as honest as we can, telling students the challenges that we are all facing, all the unknowns we are all facing. And if other subjects or subject leaders are confident that they can help students to complete the subject on time, please go. However, we still cannot discourage all of them. Okay, many students, these 80 to 100 students, still stay. So we are telling the students we hope we can deliver the service, for example, in August or even as late as December. However, we don't know whether we can do this. And again, going back to what I said earlier, is about because it's not because I don't want to tell you. Last year, I could tell you what day, what flight, okay, I'm taking. But this year, I can't, okay? So, and as Carly said earlier, we are monitoring basically like every second, okay, checking on news. I've never been into that news, in the news that much, that closely. But because it affects us so much, we need to keep an eye on that.
Carly?
For example, just like 2 hours ago, I was told that Kazakhstan students cannot leave the country.
Yes.
So, and many of our students are now in Kazakhstan.
Wow. So what about Carly?
Challenges.
So Anna has a lot more students, but Carly's program is probably longer, about 8 weeks or so. So can 8 weeks be compensated for?
Well, I think it would be very hard to replicate the experiential learning experience on the ground in Hong Kong or virtually, because what's special about NGL is the immersive nature of the program. And it is exactly this element of the program that makes it unique. But just for the record, Aditi, last year, we also had 128 students on the program. It was during the social movement, and I think we are very happy to say that none of the students actually dropped out. All of us remained very professional, and we completed the program. I know that a lot of students actually struggled because I was with them, crying with them, hugging them. But then we all continued very professionally. We know we had our service to deliver. We have a mission to carry out. So we were there for the local communities and we completed the program. This year, the program has scaled down to enroll a maximum of 40 Hong Kong youth students. But I think the challenges are still very real, because we have different issues that we are dealing with. For example, quarantine issues for non-local students who are coming in to join the program. They need to consider that as well, depending on whether they can stay or to afford the cost associated. So yeah, the challenges are still very real, no matter how big the program is.
This might seem a cheeky question, Carly, and this is for Anna as well. I mean, all these things that you talk about, I mean, is this all worth it? You know, for experiential learning, there's so many complications, so much to sort of deal with, so much you've got, you know, risks that you have to manage and evaluating decisions, what gets cancelled, what do you do? Is this all worth it, do you think?
For me, it is a definite yes. And I invite you to come join us on the ground. If you see the happy faces of the local learners and our participants, you'll understand that everything is worth it in the end.
You can get me a visa, Carly, I'll be right there.
Oh, definitely.
How about you,
Definitely. I've never questioned that. I don't know whether I told you earlier about my story, my history. I am one of the beneficiary of service learning, because when I was at university years ago, at that time we didn't call it service learning. I helped my professor to do teacher training for some teachers in mainland China. We did it very regularly. Basically, like every 3 months, we went to mainland China to run workshops there. And when I graduated, when I started looking for jobs, I, of course, put down on the CV. And everybody picked on that and said, you trained teacher when you were a student. Yeah, I did. At that time, I didn't think it was great because I was still used to do this. So people got interested in my stories. And I had a story to sell when I attend interviews as a fresh graduate. So, and when I started working and I looked around, how come I operate differently when compared with people at my age? Because I was a lot more able to do impromptu speeches. I was a lot more spontaneous and a lot quicker when there are challenges. And I suddenly realized that it's all possible because of my experiences working in China at that time. Because at that time we asked for A and you never get it, okay? You get B, okay? Then what do you do with B? So when I became a university teacher, I thought I want to give myself these learning opportunities. Because these learning opportunities not only help me develop my knowledge of the world, but also develop myself as a teacher.
I love that conceptualization of the story. I mean, the ability to kind of tell stories. You have a story, and the fact that students can tell these stories. I mean, that's something that's very hard to get out of the curriculum generally, I think. And maybe this experiential learning is really something that taps into that. I think that's a really nice example. I had another question, just curious. We've been asking other people on the, in the lift, what happens when this difficult time we're in, when it moves on, maybe the virus is more contained. I don't know whether protests will die down at all. I'm not going to suggest they might or might not. But do you think that this will be easy enough to transition back from the position you're in at the moment to next year if things are a bit quiet? Do you think this is quite an easy transition from where you are now to where you might be next year? Or is this going to take some time to kind of get experiential learning back up and running again, do you think?
Well, maybe let me answer that first. To be honest, I'm quite worried because we have different issues to consider next year in the next run of the program, maybe. Because if we so unfortunately have to cancel our program this year, I'm not so sure what local partners will feel about collaborating with us next year. So there are some very real concerns over there. So it might not be as easy like other undergraduate courses to just pick things back up.
Do you think?
But can I just ask that one to Anna as well? I mean, do you think it's no problem, because a lot of yours are Hong Kong? You've got Hong Kong connections there as well as international connections. Do you think you can pick those up quite easily again? You don't foresee any lengthy issue transitioning back?
I had it's quite difficult to give you a straightforward answer, because different teams have different situations.
We love complexity on this program, Anna, so please make it complex.
For example, at one point I almost wanted to have a long pause for my team Hong Kong, because as I can predict the unrest could continue for a long while. However, when I called the community centers last week, I was checking with every one of them, because I feel I should do this. I called every single one, asking them to give my present students some help, because my students cannot go in the community center, so I need them to write a paper instead. And I want my students to interview the social workers. So having like Zoom interviews. And none of them said no to me. Yeah, I can help. I want to help. I can ask my friends to help as well. Do you need more? And at that point, of course, I thank them. I'm very grateful for that kind of help, because we have developed this trust, okay? They see me as friends. And therefore, I suddenly feel as a local, I cannot let them down. So I think I will continue my Team Hong Kong for a long while. Yes, I think this is my responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, the strength of those connections must be something that's very important to that longevity of the program. You can build those connections and keep them going over such a long period of time. I guess when there are times like this, you can kind of get over it. But yeah, no, very interesting. Sorry, Aditi, I cut you off. You had a question. Let me bring you back in.
Yes, my question was more to do with what Carly said earlier about soft skills and learning to interact with people and team building and morale. Things that we normally assume can only be done face to face, or when we are physically in the presence of each other. And I'm just thinking, is there a way that this has given us an opportunity to redefine personal skills, to redefine social skills, and to think of it as something that can be offline as well as online? Our students kind of learning about this, taking the opportunity that this is the time to learn to present ourselves on Skype, or maybe even not just learn through these applications, but also teach by means of these applications.
Well, I think there is great potential to this, in fact. So as I was thinking about all these, actually, I think we can try some of these elements to move them online. For example, piloting some online classes to local Burmese students. But again, there are some technical issues or some logistical issues to consider. But I've thought of that. So that's something that I would like to explore. And also what you mentioned earlier about moving, rethinking or redefining soft skills or team building skills, that's totally possible as well. I always think that with challenges, there comes a lot of potential opportunities as well. So this is something that I would like to consider in the coming 2 months, if possible. So maybe, of course, we can do some of these training online, but the difficulty for NGL program right now is that the full team hasn't met yet. So we've just completed the enrollment, we've done the interviews, we've confirmed participants, at this moment, but they haven't met. We're scheduled for a briefing for all the confirmed participants in April. We don't know if we can hold that face-to-face. If we can do that, of course, that's very good. But with the current situation, a big possibility will be that we do it on Zoom. And that will be a challenge for me to consider right now, how to do a Zoom session that's interactive and that can enable team building for a briefing of 40 students and teachers involved. So yes, that's something that's very real and something for me to consider. Any suggestions?
Yes, Anna, yes.
Can I jump in here a bit? In fact, I personally feel that doing the teaching part is not that difficult. In fact, I'm going to ask my students to submit, if we cannot go to Cambodia, for example, I'm going to ask them to submit me some teaching videos instead. Okay, so for example, how to teach songs, and then record it through Zoom or something. And I'm sure my students can come up with very imaginative, very creative ideas. However, I think one thing that we cannot replicate is the environment. The reason why students join Team Cambodia, Team Taiwan, Team Dabu is because of the country. We cannot replicate the country through Zoom or anything. In other words, okay, you are doing experiential learning. How can you not give them the experience? So so I don't know. Maybe technology one day can do that. Okay, maybe all these 3D or whatever VR thing, but still, these are not real. I think for service learning, for experiential, the essence of authenticity needs to be there.
That's a very good point. I think it's a good little takeaway. I think for us there at the end, Anna. I mean, I think there's challenges there, but you have to have the experience. I think it's a really nice point. I think to end on. Aditi, I don't know if you had any more questions there, did you?
Because I know in the case of Carly, these are 12 elective credits, right, for your Nurturing Global Leaders program. Yes. So if,
yes, correct.
Let's say, of course, let's hope that this doesn't happen. But if students are not able to experience this, then what do you have in place to say, okay, can they take any other elective? How easy would it be for them to just finish those credits?
If we cannot fly to Myanmar, I doubt that NGL can go on, really. So because as I mentioned earlier, what's special about NGL program is that it's immersive. It's 6 weeks long on the ground, so it's immersive in nature. If students can't fly to Myanmar because of travel bans or of the current healthcare situation, then there's no NGL experience.
Do you allow them to take any other elective and complete some other course? Do you want GL? Yes.
I think they have other options available, and that's why I think it would be responsible for organizers to inform students of the final decision of whether the program will still go on as early as we can, so that we can allow students to make alternative plans for the summer.
I think at least they know they have a backup plan. At least they are very motivated. These are all very positive takeaways. They will do the program, but just in case if it's not possible, then they can take another course and still complete the credits. Is it the same at PolyU, Anna?
Well, SLO, Service Learning and Leadership Office, has asked individual subject leaders to come up with backup plans, so as to help students to complete the requirement in time, especially for final year students. And in our case, we have a number of backup plans. Although we don't want to resort to these backup plans because we know that these plans are not ideal.
But I think it's very reassuring.
We can help them to finish, but I don't think we can replicate everything.
Okay, I think we better wrap things up there. So I just want to say it's been very enlightening. Learned a lot there about experiential learning. I've certainly learned that PolyU has a much better acronym than Hong Kong U for their program. I think SLOW is a great acronym for experiential learning. But yeah, lots of things there that I've learned. So I want to thank Anna and Carly both for coming on or coming into the Teachers Lift, I should say. And hope to see you again soon.
It's great to see the two institutions collaborate
Okay, you're
on
welcome.
the Teachers
Bye-bye.
Lift. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Carly. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. We strive to release a new episode every Tuesday and Friday. If you've enjoyed this content, be sure to subscribe at teacherslift.com or like our Facebook page at facebook.com/teacherslift so you don't miss our next episode. The Teachers Lift is a collaborative project from teachers at the Center for Language Education at the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, the English Language Center at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and the Center for Applied English Studies at the University of Hong Kong. Thanks again for listening. We're looking forward to seeing you next time.